Well, today I'm honored to sit down with someone who's been an incredible part of my journey and my career, Wendy Dixon. Wendy is the team leader of the Dixon team at Keller Williams Realty in Chattanooga. And she's not just a top producing real estate agent, but she is somebody that cares deeply for her clients. From growing up around building and development to leading one of the most trusted real estate teams in our area, Wendy has built her business on integrity, expertise, and heart. But what truly sets her apart is how deeply she cares, not just about her clients, but about her team and her family. I've had the privilege of working alongside Wendy and seeing firsthand how she gives back. And this is not just in real estate, it's like your wedding and everything. You're always making it about everybody else, which is really cool to see.
It's a blessing and a curse, but I do love pleasing other people. Um, the nothing brings me more joy than seeing happy people or people, successful people, not just happy for the wrong reasons, but happy for the right reasons, and teaching others what I know to be successful in their own life, whether it be in business or personal.
Well, it's been amazing getting to know you over the past 2 years here, and I'm really blessed to have you as part of my life and as a mentor in real estate and business.
Well, I feel lucky to have met you. I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I can't wait to see where you go next.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's just jump right into this, Wendy. So, I was preparing for this a little bit, and I saw that growing up, you were doing open houses as early as 15. What was that like? What was it like growing up for you, and how did that spark your interest into real estate?
That was back in the 80s. Construction was sort of at a lull. People didn't really, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have different things. It was drive-bys, it was signs. People went out and rode around on certain days. So my dad and his business partner had a big subdivision they were doing, and they had a model home there. And some Sundays when we were there, hey, hang out here. If someone comes, give us a call. We'd give them a call on the landline, and they'd zoom over there and say, hey, look around, call them quickly. They could be there in 5 minutes. And we'd show them the house and all of the things. And then when it came time for, talking business, someone else would come over. But that was also in the era when, home sales were few and far between. Interest rates were, probably in the 12% range. And it was a much slower time, but I did enjoy it. But I've been in construction. My dad's been in construction my whole life. Started out with like fire renovation construction, and then he went to new construction. And at the time that I was 15, it was all new construction. He developed like a 50 plus neighborhood in Central Florida where duplexes, similar to that of the Greenbrier community now, just on a much smaller scale and not as intense with all of the neighborhood offerings. But it was in a town that wasn't conducive for that type thing.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, I mean, it's just been in my blood forever. And then back in 2002, I moved back to my hometown. He was in construction and worked for a very long 4 years. It felt like a decade of time, but we had um it was the boom. It was the construction boom in Florida. Like I said, 2002 to 2006 probably, and about the end of 2006, we went through, a lot of changes with the family business there, and our kids were kind of changing in the age of school, and I always just sort of thought I would end up back in Chattanooga and loved the school system, had gone to Southern for a little bit, graduated from UTC. We just loved Chattanooga and loved Tennessee, so we brought our kids back, and when I moved here in '06, we thought we were gonna just buy some land, flip some houses, build a new home once or twice a year, and, kind of slow down, but the market kind of didn't allow us to do that. It turned at that time. So when it
Mm-hmm.
turned, I went to complete my real estate license basically for other reasons. I went into the training and to learn how to do all the things. And when I started selling homes, I didn't realize that all of this stuff that had been in my past was making it easy for me. I'd always been the customer or the consumer. I'd been the builder that was approached by the realtor. I was always the one that either hired and fired the realtors or told the realtor we didn't need them to sell because we would just stick a sign in front of the yard and it sold so quickly. So it was a different, it was a change. It was a lane change. You're going from being the builder that hires the realtor to being the realtor that's hired by the builder, and then all of a sudden, the tables are flipped and you're like, "Oh, okay." this is a lot harder than it looked from the other side. And
Mm,
I also got in it when the market started to turn in the other direction in Chattanooga area. So the market was not so great. It was not the best time to get in it. And I didn't realize that because I was so driven and so determined and had such a zest for success and getting us out of the financial spot that we were in based on, having 3 mortgages when the market turned and empty houses and payments to make and no income at the time because we moved without jobs. So it was a lot of my success started from, kind of digging myself out of a financial barrel that I found myself at the bottom of because of where the market turned. And so I'm very sensitive to investors or sellers or buyers that might put themselves in a situation. And that's why I'm a little bit overprotective of other people's needs because I'm sensitive to the fact that I've been there myself. I don't want to sell someone something that, may not be worth that later. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where the market's going at any given time. And, it can also go in the other direction. But whether you buy high or sell low, the best part of it is that you are buying or selling because you
mm,
do wanna be in the game. You can't win if you're not playing. So, owning real estate is what I've done to secure my financial future, and I'm not there yet, which is why I continue to work. I don't think that anyone ever quits working when they get into it and they love what they do in that sense. But I'm trying to do a little bit of everything and help other people on the way there. I love to help people like you and your age getting into it because I bought my first house when I was 22. My dad built it for me, and I loved, you know, the excitement of it and the ownership possibilities of it, and my dad was like, "Okay, do it again. Buy and sell every 2 years and make your money and go on to the next one and maybe rent one," and he taught me what I know to get where I'm at, and I love to try to pass that on to someone else. I'm no genius by any matter. I haven't spent, hours, weeks, or years studying the subject, but I'm just kind of passing on my own personal knowledge and love to express that to you or anyone else that wants to kind of explore the opportunity of real estate.
mm, mm.
I know that's only a small part of what you're wanting to do with your future, but it's a big part.
Let's jump back a little bit here. I want to talk about your dad because at the wedding, from just talking to you, I knew that he had done really well and that he was this great builder and everything. But I didn't realize that this guy was like flying around in planes to different projects and like working on commercial and like doing the amount of stuff that he was doing. So tell me a bit about what was that like growing up, him being that busy and doing that much. Is that where you think you get your drive from or
Both of my parents were extremely driven. My mom was, an extreme like, a higher level education. She was always in management positions in her jobs, and she was always, more on the workaholic side, just very driven, not in a bad way, but in a good way, and, he was a PE major, my mother was a PE major, my brother was a PE major, had all these coaches in our house that, you know, "You're not gonna lose, you're gonna win, you're gonna take it to the finish line," and that sort of concept. I think a lot of that had to come into play, but, going back to your first question, I went to 3 schools in the 2nd grade. So and because I was the age that I was, I probably can't answer your questions about my dad's success. He'd be a good one for you to have on. But I can say that what started it was working for, at the time, the Adventist Health System and building different projects. So the beginning of my 2nd grade year, he took off to do a project.
Mm,
And at whatever point in time, my parents decided that they wanted us to all be together. So their next entered a camper in which we lived in a camper. We lived in Port Charlotte, and he worked on the Punta Gorda Medical Center down in South Florida. He built that, which I've now learned that's been torn down and they've replaced it. It's been so long, showing my age and the fact that a commercial building has already outgrown itself. But yeah, they probably built one 10 times its height. But at the time, he built the Punta Gorda Medical Center. So then that was the 2nd place I went in the 2nd grade. Well, then he went to Avon Park, Florida, and built the Lake Placid Medical Center. So we ended up in a, rental there, and after he got to Avon Park, Florida, which is where he lives now, he said, "I'm never leaving." So he changed and took a job in a lower position within the hospital, literally in the basement of the hospital, over, I wanna say, environmental services, and just said to the hospital administrator there, "I'm not leaving this town. I'm gonna stay here." So he worked there until he worked himself, and he always had a job on the side, like a self-employed contracting or handyman job or whatever. Satellite dish installation, that's when that became big, and, Hayes Electronics. So he had that going on as well, but
Hayes Electronics?
yeah, at one time, satellite dishes,
Wow.
and I halfway remember because of the van, I couldn't tell you what he did, but I knew he installed satellite dishes, and,
Was he
um
doing it himself?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that was
Wow.
a long time ago
Yeah.
when things were a lot more elementary, and, he's a super smart guy anyway, but we call him MacGyver, he could do anything. But he always had 2 or 3 jobs. He was just always working hard, dropping us at school for his first job, then the next job, and picking us up, and my mom was the same way. She was constantly working on her master's and very driven and doing more, more, more. But within that town, we would, move from place to place, but, home to home, kind of, "Oh, we're gonna go to the next bigger home." We were on the list for a bigger none of this is relevant, you can cut all this part out. But anyway, once we were within Avon Park, he ended up getting in touch with a couple different builders, and he had his parents living in Avon Park at the time. They were wintering down there, and his dad sat there one day and told him, he's since passed away, Rick, I have this vision for somewhere I would like to live. And he's like, I think it would be cool to have this neighborhood in which I could come down from up north. And when I leave, lock the door and go back. There were snowbirds that traveled back and forth. And he wanted a home that he could stay in the winter, lock up and leave, in the off times. And, so there next came Orangewood Acres, and he and his business partner at the time developed Orangewood Acres and built that neighborhood out. That was where we were doing the open houses at the time, and, that kind of evolved, and he just did construction from there, and then it turned into Orangewood Builders, and now, here we are, I don't know, 40, 30 years later. I have to do the math on that and what year that was, but he, retired several years back and then decided that he wanted to keep working. And so he's just kind of evolved in all of that. And there was always some sort of connection with the Adventist health system when I was there in 2002 to 2004. I kind of held up, I sort of ran some of the commercial jobs along his side for the Adventist health system. We did some commercial doctor's offices and different things like that. And he's also done churches and schools, converting big, huge steel buildings, which would be the cheapest kind of construction, into private schools or churches there. Helping, he's always had a mission in hand. He's
Mm.
always been one giving back to the schools or the churches. But he's always just sort of had a connection there, but he just fell in love with the town and was like, "I'm gonna do something to stay here." But his passion has definitely always been construction. And a little fun fact about him was the fact that even though he was in construction, he had never lived in a home that he built.
Mm. Wow.
So in 2002, he decided he was gonna build a home. He'd always lived on a lake. He bought a house on a lake and redid the home, remodeled. So he built a home. It was the first home he had actually built because every home had been remodeled. And the first home that I lived in or I bought was one that he built. But after that, we did do one that we remodeled, so it just depends on what the opportunity brings you at the time. But he sort of just taught us, if that's a good start, do one from scratch. If not, get one and remodel it. And all of that. I mean, honestly, there was no textbook, there was no schematics he followed, there were no podcasts that he learned from. He taught himself. He was self-taught,
Yeah.
and he did have some really good mentors that crossed his path over time, and some of the things that they taught him to do were to hold mortgages because at that time, it was very hard to get loans. And so they would come across some people that couldn't qualify or didn't have the down payment, and they were holding mortgages for people. And, if maybe the interest rates were 10 or 11, but the person couldn't get a loan, they would say, "Okay, well, for, 10 and a half or 11 or 12%, we'll hold the note for you." And so that he did that for a while, and they had some investors that did that with some of the construction that they did, which is what helped them create that. He had
Mm.
very good money people backing him that helped him do the projects he wanted to do to get where he was going. But he's always been one that's not, in it for the huge financial gains. He kinda was in it to get to that next project. He had a pool business that I helped him run, and then he sold that to someone to help them get on their way. He brought draftspeople in and trained them and then let them go on their ways, and he's always been someone that's mentored someone and helped them get to their next step.
Mm.
and, I admire him for that. He might not be, huge in wealth or riches for his success in life, but he is very rich in the lives that he's touched and the people that he's helped, either spiritually, financially, or in a mentoring business fashion to get them where they're going. So,
Yeah.
um, I feel like I got a lot of that from him, and I would like to pass that on.
That's one of those things that you can't really measure is how much money you made other people along the way. You know, it's easy to say, what do I have at the end of the day? But it's hard to say, how much success did I create for other people? So that's
Yeah.
really cool that he's done that.
It is, and it's taught me to not chase the dollar. He always gave, I mean, you chase the dollar, but for other reasons. He always, from every year that we were in Avon Park, he paid for a worthy student to go through that school from
Mm,
kindergarten to senior year. He paid for that, Adventist education, and those were during times where he might not have had money to give, and he was struggling himself, but he always, helped put a kid through school. My passion kind of fell into the Ottawa softball league and the sports leagues, and only thing I can say is that maybe put it there is that when I came, that was one of the coolest things to me because I know growing up we were never in, little league or whatever because it was on Saturdays and we went to church on Saturdays and it wasn't something we did. So when we came back to the Collegeville area and there was this awesome softball league for the kids, that's something that my passion's always been in. So I do have a very strong sense for that, the private education like he did, but my passion has been more in that
mm,
respect. So
mhm.
I try to give back each year, and even when it's tight, and on the years where I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a little hard for me this year. I kind of look to my dad and his success, and I think that's one thing that I always admired him for doing. And so, as long as I can do it, when someone asks me for help in respect to kids or schools or churches, I try to give, every little bit that I can. Like I said, I don't have the wealth. I haven't been focused on the wealth or, gaining this, overall I've been more focused on, what feeds my family, what feeds, my team, and try to give back to help those people succeed in what they need to accomplish in life. And I love seeing the things that you grasp onto. Like the things that you ask me are so small in my mind, so it's interesting that you grabbed that. He was a pilot, so he flew for the system at one time as well.
I felt like I knew you pretty well just from doing a lot of the video projects that we've done over, the past couple of years. But then shooting the wedding, it took it to a whole new level because I had talked to all of the people that, or maybe not all, but a lot of the people that you're close to.
Mhm.
And I just, one, I learned so much about Wendy Dixon. I was like, this is crazy. And then two, I was
Mm.
like, okay, if all these people that are this cool have so many great things to say about Wendy, then that says a lot.
Oh my
So
goodness. I don't know what to say about that except for the fact that I love my people and the ones that lift me up and support me, and I do feed off people. Something that I didn't learn until later in life, and I've tried to express to my kids. It's like you realize, and I think you're sort of that way. Not everyone is that way. We all have different people's energies that we feed off of. And, I might not be for everyone. My energy's a little bit out there and I tend to be all over the place and my subject matters I'm talking about. But when you get excited about helping another person, and I think I see that in you when you work with someone in real estate or when you work with someone in business to help their business succeed, you get a rush out of it too because your goal is to help them succeed and you love the excitement that they get from that.
mhm.
And I think that, obviously there's a financial reward there too, but you like to produce something that exemplifies them as a person or as a company. And that gives you excitement,
Yeah,
that's something that you feed off of. So my thought is channel that energy,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
use
Well,
that to your best ability.
this has been something that's stuck with me since my senior year of high school. Well, no, it was actually my brother's senior year of high school, but whoever gave his commencement address said this thing. They were like, excellence inspires others and honors God. And since then, for everything that I care to do, I try to do it with excellence. So whether that is like helping this buyer that we just closed on today, like I went so far above and beyond for this guy. I was like negotiating, haggling, trying to get like everything. And he left the closing today being like, I'm really happy with this deal. And it was a great, I mean,
I love that
great
you had
deal.
that takeaway.
Yeah. And then if it's like if I'm working on a website, it's like, how do I make this excellent? And maybe there's some really complicated things that happen behind the scenes, but how do I make it so simple for the end user that it's like they can't get lost on this website? There's only one thing to do. And when they do that thing, it works flawlessly. Or if it's a wedding video, how can I go, like get the sunrise and things like that? Even if the sunrise doesn't look like it's going to be great,
Mhm.
you're just looking for those ways to be excellent in what you do, and that's something that I like to do. And I've seen that in you working with your buyers. Like literally right after Wendy got engaged. Okay, it was like within an hour of Wendy getting engaged. She's working on a deal because I was
I
a
don't know if
brand new
that's a good
agent.
thing. You were the
But
first person that knew because we were working that deal together. I
yeah.
was like, "Oh my gosh."
Well, she texted me this video and it was like a time lapse of sunset and then her and Daniel like walk out of there. And I'm like sitting there waiting for her to, get whatever we were working on back to me. I'm watching this, I'm like, "Oh, I bet there's an alligator that comes up," and they like freak out. And then Daniel gets down on one knee.
I was actually hoping there was an alligator. Is that bad? He did shock me when he got down on his knee.
Well, that would have been really funny if an alligator came into frame right at the end there. That would have been hilarious. But
We did get off subject there at the end of the conversation, and I loved everything that you had to say. But two things that I liked about what you said, just to go back to it, were excellence. You're striving for excellence, you're striving for the completedness of that. But the word that I liked was in a simple way. I
mm,
feel
mhm.
like so many things with society today and with websites and with um, anything, any social media post, any website, any advertising, anything is the complexity is so high, and I feel like everyone's attention span is so low, and everybody's um, marketability is on a smaller scale. My attention span is extremely low, and if it's like oh da 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 da, da, it's like on to the next thing, or if it's so
Yeah.
complex and involved, I feel like the most excellent things are in the shortest amount of time, and they're very simple. And I love that you have the ability to see the simplicity in different people and not necessarily just simple tasks, but the simple thing that makes them who they are.
Mm,
And you
mhm.
have the ability to see that in people and you see that specialness in people. And I think that's why you're so good at marketing things for other people or finding someone's house for them or whatever because you do all the things and you wear all the hats and I love that about you but like enable it enables you to figure out what it is about like that buyer today what we talked about it we're not going to get involved in what his wants and everything were but when we were bantering back and forth of like how did it go what did he want and I was like ooh he doesn't want that and you were like yeah that's what I thought too but then we talked about this and then his overall goal and then I was like ooh it makes sense I like the direction you're going so I loved that you were able to, pull off all the hard parts and just get to the basics. And not everyone can do that. I think a lot of people get so obsessed with what they think the person wants or they
Mm, mhm.
hear what the person wants
Or they overlay what they want on top of somebody else's needs.
and maybe they're both wrong.
Yeah.
And I love that you have the ability to pull all those layers off and find out, what it is that they do want. And I think that I tend to do that and maybe to a fault because sometimes I think that I know what they need more than they do and they don't want to hear that. So
Mm,
that is also a blessing and a curse because it's not what everybody wants, but I do want to find and do what's best for them because I feel like I was misadvised in my
mm.
life by different real estate, individuals. And it's not always, I tell people, sometimes they're mad at this realtor that, led them in a different direction in the past. And I said, the market could have gone another way and they could have been your superhero.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's true.
we don't have control of the market and the numbers and where they go. So, any business decision can turn out to be a bad one if you have to sell at the wrong time.
The thing that I'm always looking for is simplicity. And it's like when you turn on your iPhone, if you were to open your iPhone up, that's like the most complicated thing that you carry around with you every day. Like there's so many things in there, but when you turn it on, it just works and it looks beautiful and it's such a cool product. And we just take it for granted totally. I think if you can do that in real estate or in business for people, make an iPhone like experience where it just works and where maybe there's 1,000 things that you're doing that they didn't even think about, but you did them anyways. I think that makes something excellent.
This is why our brains work the same, and it's really scary that you just said that because you know what I used to describe the iPhone as?
Hmm.
The cartoon version.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
because it went from the BlackBerry
Yep.
to the complicated phones, and then, the iPhone was kind of big and scary. It was so expensive, and did you get one? And then when I saw one and I had to describe it to someone sometime, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just so scared of" I'm like, "It's such a cartoon down version."
Yeah.
And cartoon's probably not the right word, but it's like this click,
Yeah. Could a fifth grader understand it? Yeah. Most fifth graders can use an iPhone better than people in their 60s. So,
Yes, very true, but it's
yeah.
so funny that you use that analogy because it's one of my favorite ones too, is just far as the simpleness of it, and it used to be one of those things where people would say, "Oh, use this app." The MLS app came out, or the
Mhm.
real estate company that I was with at the time,
Terrible app,
their
by the
app
way.
came out. Yes, it is. It is. And they would say, "What about this or that?" And I say, "Well, I sort of like this app." And there was always an app that I like better than the one that someone's telling me. And
Mm.
that's why I tell clients when I start working with them, I'm like, "This is the one that I have access to immediately. But if you have one on your phone that you like, by all means continue to check that out too because maybe it's more user friendly and it just suits your
Yeah.
brain more." And that's why again, something very simple that attracts or appeals to all the masses is a lot more gratifying than one that is so complex that
Yeah.
they've done all this research to, hone into their number one crowd. I think it's just better to be simple.
Well, I think that's what makes Zillow great is it's just really easy. I mean, you hop on there, you zoom in on what you want, you click it, and all the info you need is right there,
Yes, I
which is,
agree.
it just changes what a real estate agent needs to be really. But
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot with a lot of people liking the realtor.com app lately
yeah,
too, like, because I always
has it leveled
watch,
up?
and there's another one, I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if it's is it HomeSnap or HomesCo? I can't remember, but I always look when someone sends me a link,
Uh-huh.
and, it seems like it used to always be a Zillow one,
Yeah.
and lately I feel like it's been realtor.com more,
Interesting.
and I can't remember what the other one is, but, they're changing the apps
Yeah.
regularly
Yeah.
to have one, and then if they're from out of state in a different area, it seems like it's Redfin.
Yeah, true.
And I don't see Redfin as much anymore. Like, it just depends on the area they're coming from, and it might just be who's marketing to them at the time, but
I've had a husband send me stuff on realtor.com and then a wife send me stuff on Zillow. So,
maybe they're dividing and
yeah,
conquering.
maybe they're like, let's make sure we're getting everything.
Yeah,
But
I used to kinda be a little salty about one or the other thinking like, "Oh, they're not, having all of them and are not this," and I say, everyone spends so much money. Zillow does, realtor.com does, all of them spend so much money to steal each other's basically, the realtors put the stuff out there, and then they just take all of it from the MLS or the other stuff that's out on the market. So, I said, "I don't think it hurts to look in every direction." I'm
yeah.
still very much, um, allegiant to my daily emails that come from the MLS or my updated search, but if I'm going out of town, like, say, for instance, I can remember being on a trolley in Key West and clicking. It was at that time I was loving I go in spurts with which ones I love, but at that time I was loving the KW app,
Mm, mhm.
the map app, because it would load fast.
Yeah.
It's something about that download time where you open it, so it would load really fast, and I'd pull it up, and it would have the for sale or solds, like, near me, and I'd be like, "Ooh, that cute greenhouse right
I
there
love
is
doing that when I'm on vacation.
2.8 million or
Yeah.
whatever,"
Yeah.
and my family's always going, "Wendy, how much is this house?" And I'm like, "You think I know every house in every town that we get to?" But that at that time, and I haven't done it in a while, but that used to be my fastest one, but it was literally like the download time
Yeah.
for the map
Yeah.
because that's the one that you're on, and so I just tell people, whichever one you love,
Yeah.
that's the simplest for your brain pattern, go from there.
It's fun, but then it's like Sunday and everybody's like, "What do you guys wanna do today?" I'm like, "Let's go to open houses." And
Do you find
people,
yourself going, "Wow, this looks expensive," or "This looks cheap," or "This looks"
I'm pretty I feel like I'm fairly judgmental with houses and architecture and things like that because I know what I like. I did a full renovation on a house in Washington and like literally did the tile myself, did the
what year was that
drywall.
house built? Must've been an old one.
It was built in 1884.
That's quite an
What almost
undertaking.
yeah, I mean I will never do that again. It was so much work and I made a lot of like little mistakes, but I even like, cause the flooring was this old Douglas fir from 18 I think it was, like, 1882. I actually figured out when the trees were cut down, and so I went and
Wow.
looked for tear down homes that were built in around that time, and I literally found the exact same flooring and recovered pieces of that flooring and then feathered them in to fix flooring. Cause they put, like, linoleum over it, and it looked
You have a
terrible.
gift, you need to go back to doing that,
Oh
that's
my
amazing.
no, 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 Wendy. I'm much better at I'm much better at sitting behind a computer
But
tracking
that's
down.
impressive that you did that.
It was fun, but also the worst. It was the best and the worst of
You
times.
could develop an app for that.
Yeah,
Let me
maybe.
find the person that has this. Honestly,
Has
there's
that
probably
stuff.
you
It
could
was
probably
Facebook
do that now.
Marketplace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but don't you wish you had the AI stuff now that
Oh,
back
yeah.
then because it would have probably taken out hours of time.
Oh my goodness, college would have been a breeze.
For sure. I know, I don't even know how the teachers grade papers anymore, like, I didn't even
Yeah,
it's one
yeah.
of those things that, AI has just taken over the world.
I think for a lot of people, it's actually harmful because a lot of people are just using it to kind of like cheat in life, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But for people that are motivated to do good work, it's a huge enabler. Like for me, I use it to like when I love to write, and I've been a writer for years. Like even in high school, I would sit down and write for hours a week just for fun. And I still have all of that writing, and I was looking back at some of it. It's good, but I was writing at a grade level that's like not even comprehensible to the
Can you plug
average
it in and say,
person.
"Make this better"?
Well, yeah, that's what I would do now is I
Uh-huh.
like will put something into AI, and then I'll be like, okay, just I have these prompts where I'm like, okay, make sure that these sentences are actually on topic because it's easy. Like in this conversation, we've been
Oh,
way
all
off
over the
topic.
place. Yeah.
But that's what I like using it for is like make sure that every sentence relates back to like the core message of this paragraph. And then I use it to kind of refine things down to a fourth grade reading level.
Mhm.
Because again, simplicity. Like when somebody's reading your marketing, to me, if somebody sends me like an email that's 3 pages long, I'm not even gonna look at it.
No.
Just delete right
A
away.
sentence or 2.
Yeah. Or if somebody sends me like a long audio message on an iPhone and it looks like it's really long because it shows you the transcript now, I copy it and I put it into AI and I say, tell me what this person's trying to tell me. Because I don't want to sit there and listen to it.
No, that's huge, and, I know you told me one time, how you record conversations. You tell the people, like, "Hey, can
Yeah.
I record this?" And then it
Yeah.
takes the notes for you.
Hmm.
I found that so huge because I love to make my calls when I'm in the car
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm out from the computer, I'm not looking at my phone, and I'm driving,
Yeah.
and
And
I
you can
just
do
feel
it
like
right there, right?
yeah, and I'm right there. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I did have someone yesterday and I thought, "Oh, I wonder if I can do this." I have a couple times accidentally hit my face on it and then the person goes, "Oh, you're recording this?" And I said, "No, no, I don't know what I did. Hold on."
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten there yet, but I love that you said that you record that and then you put it in your notes and dissect it later so that you can really pinpoint and not miss anything they say because a
Yeah.
lot of times when I'm talking to someone I hear something and then my brain goes to that thought and I stop hearing some of the other
I'll
things
do that too.
because I'm thinking, "Oh, that one house. Oh, they want this. Oh, they want this." And I keep telling myself what I think they want. And then they're talking more and I'm not hearing the rest of it. So I think that's so critical. But I do also get emails from people that I'm like, either this person is highly intelligent and way, way past my reading level, or they threw it into Chat GPT and said, make this sound more sophisticated because it's really big,
Yeah.
complex, and long. And my attention span is short. There will be times that I was embarrassed to admit that, but I mean, I'm just gonna admit it. Like I cannot stay focused on something very long unless I'm very in depth. But I will say this is gonna probably be an all over the place podcast. The first time I met you that we sat down, it was supposed to be like a 30-minute conversation. I think we talked for 3.5 or 4 hours,
I think so.
and we talked about 62 other different things.
Well, it's because, like, I think for both of us, if we're interested in something, if we want to be engaged in something, it's very easy to be engaged in it. But if it feels like a waste of time, then it's like, okay, what can I do to not be doing this?
Well, and I
So,
think we both have the same thing where I was like, "Oh, you're into that? What have you learned? Okay, which one did you
mm-hmm.
like? Okay, good. So I don't have to do the research."
Yeah.
And you kind of were the same way with me because we kind of trusted each other's. But
Yep.
you mentioned the videos for the wedding. Everyone talked about Andrew. If they couldn't remember your name, they're like, "Oh, your guy's great." Like,
Oh,
"Oh,
really?
we loved him." They all love talking to you and they
That's so
all
funny.
so anyone that is looking to do a podcast with Andrew, I will say no one ever regretted being interviewed by Andrew. I think that you have a very good ability to ask the right questions and you're so sincerely interested in other people that, you're
It's one of my favorite things, talking to interesting people. I read somewhere that I should read nonfiction or sorry, fiction before bed to like take my mind off of life and work because I literally will wake up dreaming about work most nights if I don't. And so I try to read. sci-fi for a while, and I made it through maybe like 3 books.
Uh-huh.
But then I pick up biographies of people, like, in history, and I can like, 60 pages will go by, and I don't even blink, like, it's just really interesting to me. Same thing talking to Alan with what you're saying, about when we chatted for the first time. Alan was the same way. We were like, "Oh, XRP? You're trading crypto?" And, I mean, there was just, like, 50 different things that Alan and I were both
When
interested
I
in.
met you, I said, "You need to meet Alan," which you guys are the same age, but,
Yeah,
Alan and I are very much alike, even though we're very different. We have a lot of things that we're both alike, but I kept telling him that, and he's like, Mom, I don't need you to tell me who." And after he met you, he was like, "Oh my word, I love Andrew." And I was like, "I tried to tell you that you guys would get along." And he was like, "I know, I hate it when you tell me that. I hate it
it's
when you
so
tell me
funny.
whatever." And he goes, "But you were right. I really love him. You guys had a lot in common." But I think that someone's zest to, um learn about other people's successes and not just try to learn. I mean, it's like a it's like a combination. You need to take in the tools that you have with the AI tools because I do know that he likes those, you like those, but at the same time, human experience and not losing the
Mm,
human experience. And when I got into real estate, there's probably I could probably name 10 or 15 agents that are still agents today that are super successful that whenever I did a deal with them, I learned something from them,
mm,
and I appreciate every bit of information that they shared with me, whether they did it in a condescending way or in a pleasant way or in a nice way. I learned from them before anyone even knew who I was or if I was gonna sell anything, and I remember when I was a nobody and I was selling my 3rd or 4th deal and I was doing a transaction with somebody, and I have such huge respect for those agents that taught me that way, and I know I have my days, and I've had so many stresses and trials and tribulations in my personal life. I really hope that I didn't push those off onto someone that worked for me or for another agent that I was doing a deal with. I can promise you that I probably did, but we all get to our pushing point, and then you have that personality that you don't mess with, and then you're just like, "Oh my word," and you tear them apart. I really hope that I haven't done that in my life. It hurts my feelings to think I might have hurt someone else's feelings, but I admire so much the good and the bad that was bestowed upon me because I learned from those. And I
yeah.
I love when you come to me and you tell me who you're doing a deal with, and I'll be like, "Oh, we won't bring anything up today, but I'll say this is what you can expect. This is how it's gonna be." Or I also sometimes like not telling you and then go, "Hey, come back when you're done and tell me how that went." Let's see if you get chewed up and spit
Oh,
out
that's
like I
funny.
did. And you
Yeah,
don't. You're good that way, but real estate is a way that you really learn a lot about a lot of people. And I think
yeah,
when you do something in a field of work, you automatically think that other people in your field of work know what you know.
yeah.
And it can be a good and bad assumption, but then also we can assume that someone just because they're new doesn't know what they're doing. And you just don't know where they're coming from in every walk of life. I had already done so much before I got my license to know that I didn't know that I was experiencing what I did.
Mm,
I had so much knowledge in the things that are critical for a real estate transaction. We
yeah.
owned a moving business for a while. We relocated senior citizens. I had a decorating, not necessarily decorating, but I rehung pictures and unpacked boxes for some of those people that need them in the Palm Beach area. My mom was always a decorator. She was a health educator. There's all these things that weirdly, along with my dad building and construction and remodeling of our own, they're just kind of thrown in the pot. And then I didn't realize I'm walking through a house. I'm like, oh, that'll probably cost 8 grand. And that little bit of that remodel job that you did on that 1880s house, how much you learned just from that. So if you're showing a house in downtown Chattanooga, you can be like, well, I can appreciate the fact that this bathroom's been put back together by them and not myself. It's the little small things that you take are stepping stones to where you're going to get, and they're just different doors that are opened that can put you in another direction. And I don't feel like I'm done and where I'm supposed to be ultimately, but I can say that I've loved the journey getting to where I'm at,
Mm.
and it's been a fun one, and I can't wait to see where you're gonna go. It's interesting to see your wheels spinning each time
You
we
keep
talk.
you keep putting this back on me. I'm supposed to be interviewing you. I've been talking about myself too much. But
No.
what I'm curious about, I want to backtrack a little bit to college. So you decided to go to Southern.
Mhm.
And then you ended up graduating from UTC with a legal studies degree. Is that right?
So as I explored schools, I was in the dorm in Forest Lake Academy, Adventist High School in Orlando. Loved it. Was so much fun. Um, it was during a time like most of the kids at our school went their junior and senior year. I talked my parents into going my sophomore year, which was my brother's senior year. They were going through a divorce, and I convinced my brother to go to Forest Lake so I could go to school with him one last year. He had been out of state at school with one of my cousins, and so we got to go to a year together at Forest Lake. Then I finished my next 2 years there, and then my brother was up at Southern here in Collegedale, and as I finished my senior year, I found myself hanging out more with some of my friends from Florida that were not in that circle of friends, so I really went back and forth for a month where I was gonna go to school, and about 2 weeks, I was not gonna go to Southern. About 2 weeks before school started, my friend group sort of changed. My best friend at the time, her college plans changed, and I just at the very last minute said, "This is what I wanna do." So, we threw everything in the car and drove to Collegedale, and I got enrolled in school. My Aunt Barbara, who went there, and she's a teacher in Collegedale, and because she was my favorite aunt and I thought she was the coolest thing, and I always loved helping her set her classroom up, I started out in elementary education.
You should have stayed with it.
About the 2nd day of my, I guess I don't even know what they call it, and it's not really I guess it's an internship, you were job
Mhm,
shadowing,
mhm.
the kindergarten class, I was saying I loved kids. I was like, "There's no way I'll have kids if I'm a school teacher, like, they're gonna, like, make
Wow.
me pull my hair out."
Yeah,
Probably shouldn't have started with kindergarten,
yeah.
Barbara was a 6th grade teacher, but anyway, um I wrote it out, and when I got in those education classes, I met some really long time, lifelong friends that I have
Mm,
today, which I'm really proud to say that I met amazing people. I had a great semester there, but, right off the bat, I my heart was still back in Florida with some of my friends there, and I just was not digging the education thing. So I did only last 1 semester, went back home. After I went home, I did just some generals. I didn't do, like, anything specific, and I did another year of that. And then I decided that I was going to be a paralegal and I wanted to go to law school. Or I might have decided law school first. And so I was going to decide what direction I needed to go to for that. So I found a program at Chattanooga State, did my 2-year program there, finished that, went right into the UTC program. I was in the first year that they graduated with that class because it was a new 4-year degree. So I was in poli sci for a little bit, went to some criminal justice classes, was in there with some football players and different people. It was a lot of fun that one semester that they were changing. So met lots of cool people at UTC, and then ended up in the paralegal studies classes and finished my last year by corresponding and traveling back and forth because I had then married someone, moved back to Florida for his job, and after changing universities, realized this was gonna be a whole thing. So, I
mm.
kinda was always chasing the legal field. I had a typing teacher in my first year of high school that worked for a paralegal that was a paralegal for an attorney, and she was always one of my favorite, and, um, just loved her job and things she talked about at school, and even to this day, it's something I could go back to. I love the law. I think that I probably could have gone to law school and loved, doing all of that. I don't know if I would have gone in the same direction, but I did get a job and work in that in Tampa for a while, and it was mostly insurance defense.
As a paralegal?
As a paralegal, I did insurance defense work, and the company that I worked for was a boutique law firm that did a lot of, General Mills Foods was their client, so I remember there being, like, a sharpshooter lawsuit where a guy with some ketchup at a Chili's restaurant cut his finger on a ketchup bottle, and he was suing Heinz Ketchup, which was then General Mills, and he was a sharpshooter supposedly. So, like, we hired
Huh.
investigators to follow him to learn that no, he wasn't a sharpshooter and that he didn't deserve millions of dollars for his career. So it was a fun time. I didn't it was the flip side of the ambulance chasers. It was the ones defending the insurance companies.
Mm, mhm.
So it was kind of an interesting perspective, and I did love that, but I did quit a job that I love to follow a career opportunity for my then husband and his family's moving business. And that was something that we dove into and explored. I did think I would go to law school in South Florida when we moved down there. Um, And I did continue to work in the paralegal work for just a little bit, not necessarily paralegal, but in the law firm. I worked for a headhunting firm, calling attorneys at firms and placing them. And I did that on the evenings while also running this moving business. So I have a really weird past. I don't know how we got in this direction, but college kind of took me in a different way. I didn't. I didn't pursue any of the degrees in college for long-term things. They were always stepping stones to where I thought I was
Mm.
gonna go. Like, I always thought I would end up in law school, but I thought, "Well, this'll be a way that I can, um, pay my bills," and I did work for an attorney, um, in either Tennessee or Florida for about a 5-year time span that I was working in law firms and did love that, and most of the time it was on a part-time basis so I could finish my schooling, but it's always been an interest to me, and I think even today I probably fill out more contracts than most attorneys just because of being
Yeah.
in real estate, but again, something that's a part of my past that helped me feel like real estate's easy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not necessarily easy, but the contracts part.
The contracts part is not super hard to figure out. It's the dealing with the people is what makes real estate hard, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And they're so what's the word? Unpredictable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just part of life, but you really do learn a lot about a person when you, dive into their financial.
I think it's the best thing about real estate too. It's the best and worst thing about real estate is the people, because it's even when you have a really hard time with a client, you still walk away learning something, and or at least for me so far I have.
Mhm.
Um,
You've
but
had some
then
hard ones. I think that life has thrown you some really like, when you would call me, I would be like, "Oh, Andrew, in my almost 20 years, I've only had this happen, like, once or twice. I can't believe this happened to you, but it's a good let's grow from
well,
it."
this is what I'm saying is
You've had some
this is
hard ones.
everybody keeps telling me how bad real estate is right now. I'm like, I mean,
You're loving it.
it's not been too bad. So if this is bad, then I'm looking forward to it being good.
You got in it at the same time I did in another time of life when it
Mhm.
was bad, and I remember going to my broker and being like, "Man, why is everyone so salty in the office?" And he's like, "No one's selling any homes."
Mm.
And I'm like, "I am, but I'm still not making my bills because I was in such a tight
Yeah.
spot."
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that I knew I was being as successful as I was because I just kept saying, "This is the hardest job I've ever had, and I'm still not making my bills." So I just had to keep punching it every
Keep going.
day, which I see that drive in you, and I love seeing that in you because it's something where you just take it and you do it and you learn from it and you roll up your sleeves and you figure it out, and luckily, we have a lot more tools today that you can utilize to get there faster, and I feel like, the internet has really changed a lot in real estate. Do you know that I actually remember I don't feel like I'm that old to be one that can remember this, but I remember running my dad's construction company, and I guess it was around the 2002 era, and a realtor walking in my office with a book, a black and white book of houses and prices and descriptions and pointing to me and say with one circled and saying, "This is a really good one, you should look at it."
Wow. And
Because
that was
they
the
that
MLS.
was the MLS book and it was put out each week and it was this publication or whatever, and maybe it was by the month. I don't even know because I didn't know enough about it back then. And I would say, "Okay, we'll take a look at it," and we drive by and look at it or whatever. And maybe it wasn't like that everywhere, but that's how it was in Avon Park, Florida, in that time frame. And
Wow.
it's just crazy the things and the way things have progressed. You know why I traveled back and forth for school that one semester when I was in Florida?
Why? What?
Because email was there,
Uh-huh.
but the files were not able to be attached. Like, we didn't have the PDFs and we didn't have the files, and you couldn't attach that. You would have to fax it to them. So I had attorneys that I was like, "Well, can I fax this to you?" "Well, it costs to send fax messages and per page and
Mm.
just mail it. And can you just mail it?" It was
It's just easier to
insane
drive.
that yeah. I
That's
mean, and
crazy.
I didn't even drive, I flew, and there was, like, airlines, and I would say, "Okay, this is how much it costs," and it was so expensive, and it was like whatever airline was out then, I don't know if it was AirTran or what, but I would have to fly on a certain day where the ticket was $50 and the return ticket was this, and my dad paid for all of that during a time when he was not financially able, but he did
Wow.
commit to helping me finish that last semester because I was gonna have to start over with 60 credits if I started. So it was just that
It's
last
worth it.
semester to finish, but it's funny how technology has come so far.
I think about this a lot. I wouldn't rather be alive. Now is the best time to be alive. Even though everybody's like likes to focus on the worst aspects of being alive today, it's literally the best time to be alive. There's the most opportunity ever. And there's the most opportunity to make something of yourself and also to do nothing with your life right now. So
That's true.
it's but I think you have the choice to make something of yourself now, which is exciting.
I just love to see anyone that's aged 17 to 27 that's socializing. We had that COVID period that kind of
Yeah.
hit at the same time that this introvert technology era came about, and the stories that I heard of people of, the antisocial kids or the kids that only wanted to play video games or the ones that whatever, like, I admire the ones that are getting out and doing the things and are getting jobs and that are staying in school and deciding to exercise their brain because
Yeah.
even though people say, "Oh, you don't need college to do that job," or "You don't need that." College teaches your brain to expand on different things, and I don't know, maybe it doesn't do that anymore because of the AI thing, but I just feel like, higher education or taking the time to educate your brain and to expand your brain, and that's what your brain's for. That's what God made it for, to learn, expand, and to be utilized, and it has so many things it's capable of. Just
Yeah.
need to figure out a way to use it.
Yeah. Capability versus willingness, right?
Yeah,
People are capable of almost anything, but what they're willing to do is another story.
yeah, and
So
and and the focus I tell people today is pick something that AI can't do. Work with your
something that
hands.
AI can't do, or something that you can do 100x of what you would have been able to do with access to AI.
Yes,
Because if you have some way to make AI a huge multiplier on what you do, I think that's a great thing to get into.
I agree.
Yeah.
Make a list of those things and let me
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
No, but whenever someone asked me, I said, "Well, 3 years ago, I told someone, oh, do graphic design. Everyone needs that.' Well, now AI
Now,
does
yeah,
that.
AI does it perfectly almost in the first try.
Yeah.
So,
So it's
yeah.
it's going to be interesting where we are in another, 1 to 10 years to see what things it takes over. Will we be
Yeah.
flying around like the Jetsons? I always kind of wanted to do that. Will we all have our own little rosy robot that takes care of our food and serves us dinner?
I wonder what will happen with real estate because it seems like there's certain things that AI will do in real estate, but then things that AI will definitely not be able to do in real estate.
Yes, I think that there for a while people thought that there would be the ability to do these transactions over the phone or through the internet, and I think that there are, I mean, obviously we know about the ones that are out there that are like Open Door and these kind of companies that are doing all these transactions, via email or electronically. But I think that at the end of the day, um, walking in there, looking at it yourself, the tangibility of having another human being put their eyes on it, um, is huge because everyone will be like, "Oh my word, this looks so amazing." And I'm thinking to myself, "I've actually seen that house. And yeah, the
Mm.
pictures are great, but I
The
don't
house itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
can you really see the bones?" Like,
Yeah.
you need that contractor to tell you this or that. You need
And
someone to guide you through the process.
so much of a house is like your five senses when you come into it. It's like you can literally walk into a house and get a bad taste in your mouth when you walk into the house because it smells so bad and it's like so, but it could photograph well. So
It might look good.
yeah.
And it's funny when someone gives you a long list of things, the personality. So like you'll have one person that has a list
Hmm.
and they'll go in the house and they will love a house. And you're like, "Oh my word, they absolutely love this house." And then they get back in the car and they're like, "It doesn't check our boxes. Okay, take that one off."
Yeah.
And then you'll have the
Yeah.
opposite people that are like, "Oh my word, I just have to have everything check its boxes." But then they walk in the one that makes them feel good.
Yep.
So there's the feel good people and the box checking people.
Yep.
And I think I was a box checker
Uh-huh.
and then walked in and bought an emotion, like, because it's a feeling too.
Yeah.
I've gone every way,
Yeah.
but most of the time I think I'm probably more of an emotion. I do wear my feelings on my sleeves, and when it comes to real estate, I do the same. It's an emotional purchase, but mainly I think I got my father's love for the lake.
Mm,
Oh, I'll
mhm.
buy it because it's on the lake, we'll fix it up later.
Yeah.
Or I'll
Yeah.
buy it because it's on the golf course, or I'll buy it because of something, I think I picked up on his passions, but or in your situation, doors. It has 4 doors on it,
Yeah.
or 2 doors, or
True.
it's something
The
going
rental.
forward.
Mhm.
The rental aspect, like, we'll go for the duplex so that later,
Yeah.
we'll have those. So, I think I've probably more driven that way, but it is fun in real estate to see. It's funny that you said the 5 senses because
Yeah. I
Is
mean, it's
this
true.
is the emotional one the sixth sense? I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
The touch and feel, maybe it's the emotion instead of the feeling.
It could be a combination of everything because when you walk in, you're probably like if you're buying on emotion, you're probably going back to some time in your life that you really liked. Like if you see something on the lake and you walk in and you're like, you know what, I've got to have this house. Maybe it reminds you of a time in your childhood or a time that was really great. And there's just all these little things that maybe on a subconscious level you're not really picking up on, but they make it feel like this is going to be a sweet place to live,
Yes, and I
right?
think that when you do your research in advance too, and you kind of know what your non-negotiables are,
Yeah.
that's usually how I start every conversation with a buyer, and I say, "Well, what are your non-negotiables?" "Okay,
Yeah.
master has to be on the main." "Okay, no matter what." "Okay, well, what if there's a room that could be a master?" Like, what's your
Yeah.
not that
Do
we
you
wanna
want to
go
do
that
reno?
desperate or whatever, but if they have another non-negotiable that's lake, then, okay, we're gonna have to look at the ones that have the master on the second too or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, just finding their non-negotiables and seeing what it is that they need. Which, we're talking a lot about buying. It's not necessarily a buying market right now. We have both going on. The selling market is also a struggle because people are hearing what their neighbor sold for 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and, when someone says, "Oh, wow, are the interest rates high right now?" I'm like, "Oh my word, what rock have you been under?" But that's our world, it's not their world. Their world
Yeah.
is pumpkin patches and family reunions and,
Yeah.
conversations at the cooler or an entire different field. Like, I don't know anything about the medical field, but I know what I know about. So when
Yeah.
you get in someone else in a house that knows nothing about our market, we're shocked to hear it, but not everybody is on the internet or
Yeah.
asking AI or exploring the subject first.
Well, and there's a thousand ways to be smart, and you know, just because we don't line up on the same thing doesn't mean they're not
Yeah,
a smart
their
person.
yeah, their thing is all about another subject, and it's not
Yeah.
what ours is. And it's funny because real estate has so many different hats
Yeah.
that I think that we take for granted some of the things that we know because they come second nature to us, and they're
Yeah.
just not out there, and they're not necessarily things that are on a list of things to educate yourself about if you are exploring real estate. And that's why working with someone that has knowledge of it, that has experienced that before, is huge. And you'll have a great transaction start to finish where nothing goes wrong. And it's just great because you've got all sorts of great things on both sides. You've got sellers that want to bend over backwards for you. You've got buyers that don't care. They're so excited and maybe unlimited budgets and remodel budgets and all that. And then you'll get another one where nothing goes smooth and everything goes wrong. There's title issues, there's driveway easements, there's all sorts of
That's every
problems.
transaction I've had.
I know, that's why I said, "I hate that you've had this many problems because there's not normally this many problems."
When you were talking about the good one, I felt myself leaning. I was like, "That happens? Is that real?"
You will have a good one, I promise, I promise. No, I do feel like it's been that way lately. I've heard a lot of people in the office talking about, different people like, "Well, I know which one I think they should buy, but they're not even liking it, and the more I
Yeah.
tell them I think they should buy it, they don't wanna buy it." And I said, "It's really funny because we don't know what's driving them or what's in their brain, and sometimes people will share it with you, and those are the best kind." But I do try to vet the ones in advance, the houses that they've picked and just say, "Okay, this is why I think you should take this one off your list," or "This is why I think you should add this one to your list," or "Let's talk about these things." And other times I just throw them in the car and say, "Let's go check it out first." And I
Yeah.
do like to sometimes have them in the car with me, after during COVID, everyone stopped riding with you. They go on to ride in their own car or follow you. And for a while, it was kinda nice because you could make your phone calls and work while you're going, and then after a while, I was like, if they're not from here, I can teach them so much driving around or
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
them or feel them out
Mhm.
instead of just getting in the car and then having 6 words with them while they're looking in the house. So there's just so many good and bads of both elements of that.
Yeah. I drove one of my last clients around a lot, and it was, like, really good, I feel like, because I got to know them really well, and I would just ask them a lot of questions and even stuff that had nothing to do with real estate, just about their family or about growing up, and, um, I think it helped me find the right house for them a lot more because I understood the person better than just, if they had been driving themselves around.
Well, and sometimes you're a good interviewer, so you can get that out of them, and sometimes when you ask the right questions, you can find out a little bit more about their needs. Like,
Mm.
well, have you ever thought about doing this in addition to that? Or have you ever thought about getting something and building a detached
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
when you find out what their ultimate goal is and like, well, why are you buying this if in 2 years you're gonna want something else?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always I don't wanna say not fun. It's always surprising to hear from someone like 6 or 12 months later that's like, I really wanna sell this house I just bought." And you're like, "Well, wait a second.
You're
I
not
thought
gonna
that's
net
what you
anything.
wanted." Yeah.
Yeah.
"You're gonna lose, or are you
Yeah.
sure?"
Yeah.
And everybody I mean, obviously, life changes, and we
Yeah.
can work through those problems, but, I mean, it's always my goal that they're ultimately happy and that closing day is the best day ever. The day you buy it and the day you sell it should both be happy days.
Yeah.
And I would love to say that I was this, extremely wealthy real estate guru that always bought low and sold high, but I have never been a candidate for a home in the extreme low with a huge hefty budget or in the extreme high with the ability to sell something. When the market was super high and
Mm.
people were selling, I was very happy with my house and I would never give it up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
now the market's lower. I've just never been, and maybe you will and maybe you won't. And those are the differences in the super, wealthy, affluent ones that had the money at that time to do those things. But I've either relocated or, had a divorce or a life change or kids in school or
Yeah.
a business
There's always been
change.
other priorities, right?
Yes. And so I tell people, I said, this might not be the day for you. I've gone to the table to close on a deal where I've lost money and we didn't wanna both be there on the same day because we were so sick about losing the money, and then I've been there other days where I've just been so happy
Mm.
for what
Mhm.
I've bought and just thought I've done so great, but then I turn around and the seller's back there doing backflips because I'm like, "Oh, wow. Did I just buy high?" Like, you don't know
Yeah.
where you are. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what the market's
Yeah.
gonna hold. I mean, who would have ever thought that we would, be back where we are? But back on that subject, when did you buy your first home?
It was a duplex, but I bought a duplex off my in-laws. So,
Good for you.
yeah,
How long ago? What year was it?
2023.
Do you remember what your interest rate was?
It was 6%.
6%. That's
Yeah.
actually good for a
And I
property with a second door.
refied it to 5.5. So,
That's really
cuz
good.
cuz Meredith had she had a teaching job and there was like special rates there
And so
and
you were
it
able
made
to
sense.
refinance it. Well, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mhm.
So my first home that I built with my dad when I was 22 years old,
Mhm.
the interest rates were around 8.75%. I'm assuming because I've talked to other people that bought homes in that same year, and that was about what their interest rate was. My interest rate was at age 22 with my debt to income ratio where it is building new construction, and it was a construction loan that was temp to perm, 9.75% interest. I remember
Ouch.
my dad high-fiving me, my step grandfather at the time telling me stories about having an 18%
Uh-huh.
interest, and
Yeah.
my other grandfather telling me different interest rates at different eras, and just thinking, "Wow, I'm doing so great." And then, I don't remember how many years later it was, 5.75 felt high,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
hearing people
that's
saying, "Oh, now a 15-year note is a percent less," but always thinking, "Wow, I can't
yeah.
afford the 15-year
Yeah.
payment."
I think what's spoiled people now is that, a couple of years ago, there was a bunch of people that refied and locked in like 2.74% or whatever.
Mhm.
And that's like insanely astronomically good. And people don't realize that. People are like, oh, my rate should be 3%. And it's just, unfortunately, I think we're right around the average for the past 40 years right now.
Yeah, I think we'll probably end up in the mid 5s, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think we're
Yeah.
just gonna have to readjust our budget and what we can buy, but everything
Yeah.
in life is so expensive that what we used to be able to afford for a house is becoming lower because we have all these other things that we need to spend our money on.
Mm,
Amazon tells
hmm.
us we need these things. We need
Yeah.
all these gadgets. I just bought a gadget the other day to keep my phone cord,
Oh,
attached to
yeah.
the
Uh
side
huh.
of my nightstand. And I literally for 2 years, I'm like, I don't need that. I had a piece of tape and I was tired of digging for it and I would tape it there. And so finally I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this little $5 gadget to stick to the side of my thing.
Yep. There's something for everything
There's
now.
something for everything, and
Yep.
they're all costing so much money, so
Yeah.
it's pushing all of our, and food, of course, we're not even gonna get on that
Oh, my
subject,
goodness.
but
Well,
It
Meredith and
makes
I
it hard.
are in the early stages of building a house, and, like, every time we're like, "Oh, we should buy this thing," we're like, "Ah, we'll put it in the new house," but that list is I mean,
It's getting big. Well,
yeah.
someone taught me a little trick about spending. They say, something comes on your phone, on your reels or something that you need, or I do this when I see you or anyone at the office. I'll be like, "Hey, send me that. You bought
Mhm.
that? Okay, where
Yeah.
did you get it? That phone carrier, that
Mhm.
whatever it is, send it to me. I have to have that." Someone said, "Oh, stick it in your cart on Amazon or whatever and leave it there for a month." I
Yep.
mean, I'm good with a week and I can decide. I find myself deleting it. It's a
Yeah.
really good little trick that I
I
just
try to
learned.
do that too.
And I'm on this, okay, I'm not buying little things trick. Of course, Christmas is coming too to spend on everybody, but
Oh my goodness,
it is
Christmas.
I know all the things that we don't need. And then when it comes up, I'm like, I don't need anything. And
Yeah.
that's the society that we're in now is if we need something, we buy it.
Yeah. Well, I'm like at this point with Christmas. So last year we did a big Christmas and it was like we bought everybody all these gifts and then we got to the end of it and I was like, "Oh my goodness, like I didn't even need any of the things that anybody got me. And if I want those things, I'll go out and buy those things for myself. I'd rather just like not do this weird trade thing where we all buy each other random stuff.
Yes.
I'd rather just like maybe have a nice dinner and I
Take
don't
a
know.
nice trip.
Yeah, take a nice trip somewhere because those are memories that are gonna last forever. I don't need more candy.
Yeah, 5 days before New Year's, and then
Yeah,
and then you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, well, here comes a New Year's resolution," and then you're throwing away the $5 candy bar.
Or you gotta eat it all. That's my problem.
Yes. More is more.
Yeah, yeah. Um, one more question for you before we wrap this up. What do you think makes an exceptional real estate agent?
You know, a good listener for a buyer and a go-getter for a seller. You want someone that's gonna work for you and that's gonna be tenacious, and I think that I'm also saying that for people that have been on my team, maybe not necessarily for myself or what I wanna portray myself to be, but I when you ask me, I say, "Okay, who's been successful in my office?" The ones that listen,
Mm,
I feel like go a long way, and then the ones that are go-getters. I think those are 2 of the biggest traits of any successful person because you have to, heed what's working, but then also go get it. And there's a learning curve there, like you said, when you just kind of had to plow in and roll up your sleeves and learn.
yeah.
Um, but the things you're learning, you can't teach in a class. So it's hard to say, listen to the skills because it's not a learned thing. And someone says, "Oh, how long does it take to get your real estate license? And how long do you have to go to school?" Yeah, what I learned was not in a 2-week class.
Mm, mhm.
Getting under a mentor or getting into an environment that you can learn from other people or hear about different transactions and different things, I think that's going to be the best bet to get you to success.
Like you're saying, if you go to that course, like you can sit down and knock that course out quick. There's online ones now that are like 60 hours. You lock yourself in a room for a week and learn it if you really want.
Yeah. It's just you don't come out being a real estate agent.
Yeah.
It's
You know
I
nothing about the actual
no.
contract until you go do a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I remember tripping over myself to hand out my business card to people because we didn't have, all the things that we have now, all the gadgets that you can put in front of people. You couldn't buy ads on Facebook. You couldn't
mm,
buy ads on Amazon. All these little pop-up ads on every little place. You handed out a business card. You wore a name badge. People learned who you were by the name being on the breast of your polo shirt or your blouse
mhm,
and doing something well. I used to tell people for every transaction that I sold, I tracked it. For every
mm,
transaction that I sold, for every deal that I sold, I got one referral. So every 5 deals, I got at least one referral. Maybe everyone's talking about you, but maybe not all their friends are buying houses. So you just had to keep doing a good job, getting a referral, and each person leads to another person. So now we have all these other tools that are with us, and that's how AI can help you or the internet can help you. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have all these other tools that you can get out there and get your face in front of people that they can learn because someone that's moving to our area or that lives in our area, they're looking for knowledge. And so if you can put your knowledge out there and share with other people what you know about your city or your town, then it can teach them that like, hey, there's this person that might be able to help me.
mm,
So
mhm.
it's kind of like, whatever they're seeking or whatever they're looking for in an agent, they can now find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Before it was, you know, let me call my friend Bob who's, lived in that area for 18 years and let me ask him who he thinks the best person is. So I feel like I got into real estate when it was a referral, word of mouth thing and, "Oh, let's use the person that this person used." And now it's kind of this, "Let's call the person whose face is in front of us the most."
Mm,
So it's just kind of a different era, and it just
yeah,
depends on the personality because, that's not for everyone. Not
yeah,
everyone, is like that, but I think that both avenues work. I think that it's kind of the total package, being good, getting the referrals, doing a good job, but also putting yourself out there, not being a cookie cutter company that's just looking for one deal.
yeah,
I'm trying to be a household name. I'm trying to be the household realtor. I'm trying to be, I'm so proud of the families that I've sold 7 houses within one family. The
yeah.
mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, the cousin,
We
the
just worked
aunt.
with some of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did, and it was great, and I love that aspect of real estate, like the lifetime.
Well, and a lot of the people that were at your wedding have been clients at one point, like a
That's
lot of your
true.
best friends.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I met my husband through a client, I was a neighbor to a client that moved here from California that just became a friend,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean, a lot of good things can come out of it. That's I remember moving here and saying, "Oh, I told my broker, she said, "What's your goal?" And I said, "Oh, I'm gonna sell this many houses that cost this much." It's like such, and she laughed at me. And I went home and started thinking about it. I was like, "Yeah, that is kind of a high hope because none of the people in my sphere currently
mm,
would be in that price point." So you have to put yourself out there and try to figure out how you're going to get into that price point and how you're going to get your clients because back then you rolled up your sleeves and asked for business from people. And so now it's just a whole different market for sure.
you talked about the people on your team that you've seen be successful. If you look outward at the really successful agents that you know, what do you think makes them successful?
I think that being good at a job that I think being good at the job, I think that there's several different ones out there. There are some that are obsessed with the ads and getting their name out there and putting their face out there. So I think that there are some that come in from ads, but there are some people that have just really had a very large sphere, because your sphere is your clients, kind of like when people get it. Oh, I'm selling life insurance. Okay, well, they're
Mm,
going to sell life insurance to everybody that they know because
yeah.
that's who they're going to start with. And so I think that some people that had really large spheres to begin with, and that was something that we used to look for when we hired buyers agents on our team, was like, let me pick this person that's in this different sphere. They go to this church or they're this age and they have this friend group because they're going to bring that sphere of people back to us. So I think that some of those real successful people started with their sphere and then they started doing a really amazing kick-ass job and then their
Mm,
friends told them about them and they did well. We are so blessed by this huge pool of real estate agents in town. I love the realtors that I have met over the years and the ones that we love doing business with, and I love getting a phone call from one that I've known for that long that says, "Oh, I can't wait. Hope we get to do this deal with you." And we've had all these conversations about, "Yeah, I've never heard of half these people that are calling me on the phone about my listings." And so it is kind of fun when you work with one of these that you've had success with. Now, if you look at all the transactions that you've done, you can look back. Some of them were memorable,
mm,
some of them were not. Sometimes the non-memorable ones were the ones where those people were the smoother deals,
yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
good and bad in that. But you'll start to remember, wow, when I did a transaction with that person, it was smooth, it was great. They helped me get it to the finish line. And those are the ones that you seek to work with, are the ones that help you get a deal closed, and they're deal makers, not deal breakers, because you want to see the success in getting it to the finish line.
Mm, mm. I love it. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. My very first episode. Um, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. I know you're going to do great things.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.